Another video. For today's video, I am going to be talking to you guys today about my camera. All right. The reason why is because obviously I have a media agency and how I got into it. If you watched the last video that I made that was live, I went over how I got into becoming a media agency, which ultimately started for me doing web designs, then going into a magazine, then ultimately becoming a videographer, and with a little bit of network marketing sprinkled in there, and of course now being a photographer mixed all in. So, but the purpose, of course, of my media agency is to really to be able to propel personal brands. Because I can do the videos, I can do the photo shoots, but for me, I like to be able to make them to come together. So that way my clients are ultimately getting the content and the experience that they need, so that way they can use that content to be able to go to the next level and ultimately grow and monetize on their own intellectual property. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Today's topic is about my camera, the Canon T7. So this is the Canon T7 right here. All right, if you see right here at the front, it says Rebel. It's the Rebel T7. Okay, so if you see this camera anywhere, it's a really great camera in my opinion. I'm going to go over some things that I really like about it, and then I'm going to also go over some things that I might wish would be better or was actually something I wish I knew before I purchased the camera. So first and foremost, I love this camera because of the fact that I can do so much with it. I initially started off with this camera just doing videos before I was really doing photos. And then I got so good with the videos, and ultimately, because I got a lot of people asking me to do photo shoots, I went ahead and started adding photography to the camera as well, which was obviously one of the main uses of it if you just purchasing this camera outright. So ultimately, I love it because I've had this now for maybe 3+ years now, and it has gone with me pretty much anywhere, to the point where I had my first out of the country session, and I was booked to go out of the country, went to the Bahamas, and I took the camera with me, and it did everything I needed it to do, and I was able to get some really great shots, and I was able to really, over the years, develop a relationship with my camera. And what I mean when I say that is I had to learn the settings of it. I had to learn how to use it. I had to learn ultimately how to make it to give me the best quality of the result that I am seeking. Okay, so a lot of times we just think we get a camera and we just shoot and that's it. But in this case, it's not necessarily true. So you want to make sure that you are learning your settings in your camera, and I will actually create another video going over each setting. That is going to be your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed. It took me a minute to learn those. I ain't gonna lie to you, it took me a minute to learn those. When I first got the camera, one of the first early shoots that I had, I was having a panic attack. I truly was not understanding my settings. And what happened was that as I was at the photo shoot, I'm freaking out. I'm just like, oh my God. I can see the imagery, right? I can see the imagery in my screen, but I knew that there was something that it wasn't really doing that it was supposed to do. So because I didn't understand the ISO, the shutter speed, all that, I was really going as much as bright as I can on the camera to make sure I can get the model. And there was some times where I even used my flash. And this is typically a big no-no to use the flash. But I ain't gonna lie to you, this been even in my career now, I have had instances where I have used this particular flash and it's came in a clutch. Okay, just because I probably didn't have a prime lens that was great for me to be able to use to let a lot of light in. But again, I'm gonna go over those specifics and those details in another video so you guys can understand exactly what I'm talking about. Especially if you just now get into photography or videography and you don't really know how to make it work for you. Okay. So that's the things that I personally love, and being able to obviously have the attachments that go with the camera. So I have my external flash drive that's here, and I'm really, because it's so much that goes with this, so I will have separate videos for each of these things that I'm talking about, so that way you guys can really understand how to make it work for you. So I have the external flash drive for my camera, which helps a lot when it comes to not having to use this light, because this light can come off really harsh. So the external flash drive, you can actually set it to where it's maybe not as bright. And of course, you can also maneuver the direction that you want the light to bounce off of. I had to learn that as well. The beauty of this camera is because it is very beginner friendly. So you don't have to worry about you just stumbling across it so much to where it's so difficult to understand. The buttons here are pretty simple. As you can see here at the top, the knobs, you can tell exactly for the most part what they are. I now, because I had to learn my camera, I put everything on manual. All right, manual is my go-to. Okay, as you can see right now, it's on video because obviously that's the most work that I do with this camera is videos. But manual is usually my go-to. I'm doing photo shoots. You got this auto portion as well, which is not always the best, but if you're starting out, is a good starter. You know, but you really want to get into manual so you can control your settings. Then it got all the other settings here, sports, aperture priority, and a whole bunch of other different things that you can really use. And I turn it on. Okay, turn it on. I'm pretty sure I got a battery in here somewhere. It's a battery in here. All right, cool. So now that it's on, you'll be able to see, trying to get that, not to get the reflection, but you'll be able to see, of course, let's do this. That's the video. That's how it looks like when it's on video. So I'm gonna go through with it being on manual. Okay, so that's the manual option right there. Then you'll be able to see all the settings you can adjust here. So as you can see, you got your shutter speed right here. That's your aperture, that's your ISO. And you can adjust all those when you're in manual. Of course, that's the amount of shots that I can take with my camera. That's the setting that I have. Of course, if I do one shot or servo, which basically means I can take more than one shot and by holding down the shutter. And of course, being able to adjust my exposure, a lot of different things, right? And then of course, you got your menu where you can really go into specifics. Menu when you really go into specifics when it comes to things that you need, okay? And that's really great as well. Now, that is for the most part things that I really love about the camera. The things that I don't really like about the camera, well, I'll say for this, first of all, it's a 1080, so it's not a 4K, but you can get some really good footage with this camera. The kit lens, which is this right here, okay? This is the kit lens. And the reason why I call it is because obviously it came with the camera, okay? So it makes it a kit lens, but it's also a zoom lens. So if I take it off, this is what it would look like. All right. Now this one is an 18 to 55 millimeter, which isn't bad, but depending on what you're doing with it, it will determine on how great a quality your content will be. Now, I like this personally for videos. I ain't gonna lie to you, this is actually one of my favorite videos. For photos, not so much because you got to be very particular when it comes to photos. So for photos, what I actually would rather use would be a prime lens, okay? And I do have those as well, but those don't come with the package. So I will actually create another video going over what I purchased to go with this camera to be able to use it for to be able to use it for the benefit that I needed when it came to my clients, okay? And then you just basically just hold this button here and just connect it back on. That's it. It's the same button to release it, all right? And that's pretty much it. Now the zoom portion, obviously, as you can see, when I turn it, it zooms, okay? And that, of course, will determine on if you need to sharpen it or if you need to back away, whatever you're needing in that moment. And now on the side of it, this is one of my favorite parts of this kit lens, is because it has the auto stabilizer. What that does is that when I am shooting, or more so if I'm doing videos, right? If I'm doing videos and I have it on a gimbal, even if I don't have it on a gimbal, it's not gonna be a lot of shakiness. You know, my hands, I'll try to keep my hands as steady as possible if I'm doing manual shooting, you know, and it won't be as much shakiness. But if I'm on a gimbal, of course, you may have some times where the gimbal might nudge or against something, or you might hit somebody, or whatever it might be going on. So then I won't see as much shaky because of that, all right? Now, there have been times I use a prime lens. If it does not have that image stabilizer on it, that prime lens will be shaky. So your best bet would be to try to hold it as much as possible, as still as possible. And if you are using a gimbal, being very mindful of that too, because any little jerk will have it really come out of whack. And not in a bad way, or not in a big way, but it'll have it come out of whack to where you can see the shakiness in the video. All right. Something else I love about this, the bottom portion. Now this right here is the bracket for my gimbal. So it doesn't come with the camera, but it's just the bracket I have on there. So if I open this up, of course, you get your battery, which is this right here. That's the battery. And I have a bunch of these. All right. And then you got your SD card, which is also right here at the bottom. Just push it in and you get to pull that out. And I have a bunch of these as well. And I use two different types of companies that I use for my SD cards right now, and they work great, and I save money over time. Another thing that I like about this camera is how light it is. It's not very crazy heavy. Of course, if I'm not using it at the time, I'll just wrap it around my back, put it around my neck, and just hold it on my shoulder like this. And then when I am getting ready to use it, I'll take it up, and then I'll just get ready to shoot and do whatever I'm doing at that time. Again, this is the flash part right here. So if I cut this on, if it's on manual, which it currently is on, the flash comes up. Again, I don't advise using it because of the harshness of it, but it is your prerogative to do what you decide you want to do with it. So that's that. Now, what I don't really like about the camera, I wish it was 4K, but truth of the matter is, it doesn't have to be 4K for me to get great quality content and imagery on here. So, but what I do notice is the settings. Once you really learn the settings, if you are in tune with your aperture and you understand your ISO, try to keep as much grain away, and even understand your shutter speed, you can let a lot of light come in without having to get without having to use a lot of external sources outside of the camera. And once you do that, then you'll be able to see, okay, cool, I have what I need when it comes to my footage, and it's gonna be crisp. Okay, so I will talk to you guys about my journey when it comes to using this camera. So I actually have a lot of videos that I've recorded in the past year where I have done several different types of events, and at the end of the event, I would go over what I liked and didn't like about the event. And what I liked, but what I've learned as I was recording or filming or taking pictures, whatever the case may be, right? When it comes to the event. So I will definitely be showing you guys that for sure, and I will just display the videos over time so you'll be able to get the heads up of it. All right. Another thing I don't like about the camera is it does not have a port for audio. One time, and I probably need to add this to my resume, but I used to do interviews for other companies, meaning that I would go to their events, I would take some pictures, they have a backdrop, I take the pictures, and then I would also go and I would record them while they're doing their interviews. We never had a mic. There was a part where I tried to improvise where, of course, I would try to use my camera, and connect that to a mic and then try to overlay it afterwards, which was cool, but it was definitely a lot of work. It was one of those things. But at the end of the day, I had to be up on them. I had to be get close to them to be able to hear them, because we be in a setting like probably at a lounge, right? And as you know, when you're at a lounge, you got a lot of people that's around you, behind you, that's talking, and that background noise seeps in. That was a major downfall for me. Definitely for me. And it wasn't, the client, they weren't really, it didn't bother them that much, but it bothered me. Okay? I would definitely say that. It definitely bothered me. I did not like it. But they wanted the footage and they were still booking me for it. And eventually, over time, they went a different way, and I didn't want to go in that direction. So we had to kind of part ways, but we're still amicable to this day. But that's something I definitely noticed about this. It does not have an audio port. So if you were to go on the side of this camera, and if I open it up, you'll see it has everything else. It got the HDMI, got the USB, which is typically just for the connecting this to a TV, for example, or another device. And it has like a little portion for a jack, but it's not the audio. Because I've tried, I cannot find no audio plugs that connect to it whatsoever. So if you're deciding to do using the camera, obviously, and it may have an audio portion with it, I would advise that you ultimately do it in a setting doesn't have background noise. That's it. That's it. And then unless you already know you're gonna edit the video and add audio over it, that'll be another option. That's what I do now when it comes to my shows. If I go and I film a show, that's usually what I would do. All right, so that's something you guys can definitely take into consideration and try out for yourselves. Something else I do not like about the camera. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's pretty much it. Like, it's not a lot that I don't like about this camera. There might be a portion. I feel like there was a time where on the menu. Nope, it's not, because I knew there was a time where I was able to. I was trying to figure out my external flash drive. Excuse me. I was trying to figure out my external flash, and I had bought like 2 or 3 different types, and they would not work. And it irritated me because I was like, why am I buying these? And I'm thinking maybe it's my camera. I thought it just was not give me what I needed to give. So now I'm thinking like maybe I need to buy a new camera because I needed the external flash. So it wasn't until I had a conversation with somebody specifically in a Facebook group about the camera, and they said, this is the one that you need. So I was like, all right, let me try it one more time. So I went ahead and bought it, and it worked. It worked to the point where everything popped up like it was supposed to. I didn't have to go so in depth to try to figure it out, which did not, it helped me to not be so frustrated with it. That was my biggest thing, because I didn't know why it was causing me so many issues, but I was happy to be able to get that. And I will make a video, again, I'm going to show you guys, the next video probably going to be my accessories to my camera, so that you guys can also understand. Now, I will tell you guys how I got my camera. You can get this camera pretty much from anywhere. You can get this pre-owned. You can get this on Amazon. It is about $500 on Amazon, a little more maybe, depending on what accessories come with it. If you buy it pre-owned, you might spend about the same amount. Now, for me, I basically paid double, and the only reason I did that was because I leased mine. I leased mine through a company called Flex Shopper, and I basically was paying like $100 a month for it, and it took me like a whole year. So yeah, as you can see, $1,000, over $1,000 just for the camera. But I needed it. I knew I was gonna make the money. I knew that I was gonna be able to get the work out, and which is what I did. Because ultimately, what I did when I first got the camera, I was booking shoots. So I was already setting up shoots with my friends, make sure I was learning my camera, making sure I was learning the settings, testing out different things, getting models from different various places, reaching out on social media to be able to get them to work with me, so that way I can get more experience. So if you're just starting out as a photographer or even as a videographer, and you decide to get this camera, I would not say it's a bad camera. I would say you could definitely go ahead and do that. I know a lot of people may say that's not the best to be a videographer with, but I disagree. Ultimately, I disagree, just because of the fact that I have literally built my whole career on this one camera. I do want to get another camera ultimately, and I will. But right now, because this one is doing so good for me, I'm going to keep riding with it. And when I am ready, then I will go ahead and invest in a brand new camera. At that point, I know for a fact it will be a 4K. It'll probably give me the footage that I normally see with high-end videographers, where their footage comes in like Blackmagic RAW is what I've heard the term that I've been hearing. But the thing with that is, because of Blackmagic RAW, of course, the color grading has to come into play, and you, of course, converting that video can take a long time. Whereas with this camera, when I record my shows, and I am recording these shows, and they have like 20 people in them that's performing, or if I am there at the show for over 3 hours, and of course I'll switch out my battery in between the intermissions. But when I am doing that, by the time I get home and I back up all my footage, everything can be uploaded that night. Everything is uploaded overnight. That's why I have no problem giving my clients their raw footage in 48 hours because I know me uploading is not going to take that long. So that's something that you may need to consider as well if you're deciding to get into this. Because if you decide to get a more expensive camera that does only shoot 4K and it does of course include the Blackmagic raw content files, then you will be looking at probably taking a long time for those footage to be uploaded. Now keep in mind, because it takes longer to upload, that quality would be even more crisp than my camera possibly. But if you're not ready to invest in those, because those will range you close to like $3,000 for a really good high-end cameras to get started, then you can definitely start with something like this. All right, this will not break the bank. This will help you get started. This will help you build up. This will help you get a lot of clients. Okay, again, I have used this for the last few years. I have been across states with this camera. I have been booked to go across the country with this camera. I have done shoots of all types. I've done baby showers. I've done maternity shoots. I've done weddings. And of course, been doing my post shows. I even do visuals with this camera. So do not shit on this camera. This is a really great camera in my opinion. If you want to go ahead and get started and you don't know what to get, go ahead and get this camera right here, and you will be very happy with the results. All right, and I hope, because I know I'm kind of going off of things off of the top of my head, but I hope that I was able to kind of answer some queries that you guys may have had about the camera. Maybe you are looking to get started in this industry and you don't know where to go, and you need somebody who is currently still working in it to be able to help you in a certain type of direction. Again, you do not have to get this, but it's a really good camera. All right, so that's pretty much all that I have for you guys right this second. The next videos that I'll make live, I will go into different types of accessories that you use for this camera, and then I'll probably create an edited video to go over what it is that you can actually, how to understand the settings of the camera, because I want you guys to be able to see the LCD screen really clearly, so that way you guys can say, okay, cool, she touched this and this is what this means and all that. So we're gonna go over those things. If you have any questions under this video, please make sure that you leave me some comments. If this is a great video, if you like this channel so far and you want to learn more from me, I have been in this business this particular business about 4 years now, as far as videography, photography, and content management. When it comes to my media agency, definitely tap into that. I will also still be talking about things that I've learned in the past when it comes to graphic design, as well as owning a magazine. So get with me, reach out to me, like this video, subscribe if you have not done so already, and I will catch you guys on the next ones, all right?